Okay. A parallelogram, by definition, it is a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral. With both pairs of opposite sides parallel. It's a quadrilateral with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. That kind of makes sense that it's named a parallelogram, that it have pairs of parallel sides, right? Kind of goes right from the name, I think. Parallelogram. Oh, cool. It's kind of like a, it's an anemone. Don't hurt yourself. Hey, so here, side AB would be parallel to side what? BC. And somebody else give me another pair of parallel sides here, Kaylee. Side AD is parallel to side BC as well. Now, AB isn't parallel to BC, right? AB isn't parallel to BC, is it? No, they intersect. Okay, and they're marked with 2 arrows on AB, and you see but only 1 arrow on the BC and AD, right? Naming it. Yeah. So to name a parallelogram, you can write out the word parallelogram, or on this one we have a shape shortcut, like a little like logo, like we did with the triangle. We can draw out a mini triangle. You can draw a mini parallelogram. We'll draw it out like this.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you have to angle the first one, slant the first one, straight left and right, slant backwards. So it's like a slash. It's like 2 slashes connected by 2 lines.
Oh,
That's good.
It's like you draw a mini one of these. And we can name the parallelogram just like we name any polygon. We talk about naming polygons. You can pick a point, any vertex, and you just go in either counterclockwise or clockwise. So Ian said parallelogram ABCD sounds like a good first name. I'm like, cool beans. That could work. Somebody give me another name for this parallelogram. BCDA. Awesome. We can start from any vertex and we can go in either direction. We have to stay in that direction once we start going. We can't like go out of order. So you couldn't do like BDAC or something like that. You have to go consecutive. Questions on that? We're gonna have some theorems for parallelograms. Woo! Parallelogram theorems! Yeah, woo! Theorems! Woo! Theorems! Yeah. Oh, this is an old version before I changed it. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So on your notes it says a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if and only if. Hits you with that if the double if there. Okay, the if and only if. Okay. On here, I must have forgotten to change that. But anyway, so it's a quadrilateral is a parallelogram if and only if. It means it's a biconditional statement. It can go both directions. We talked about that way back when in chapter 2 when you guys got mad at me for English class. Okay. It's a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram if and only if opposite sides are congruent. So the definition of parallelogram is that opposite sides are going to be parallel. But another theorem is saying that, well, if the opposite sides are congruent, it's a parallelogram. And if it's a parallelogram, then the opposite sides are going to be congruent. So here, somebody give me an example of a pair of congruent sides. Noah.
AB.
Okay. So
DC.
side AB would be congruent to side DC. Very good. And those sides were also parallel to each other, right?
Yeah.
So they're parallel and they're congruent to each other. Somebody give me the other pair of congruent sides.
AD.
Jacob.
AD. BC.
Side AD and side BC. Very good. And so we could label those with how many tick marks? Probably 2 if we did 1 on the first sides, right? It doesn't matter which one we list first. Not really. Okay, and remember, this is an only if. So that means it goes each direction. So that means if you know this part, if you know opposite sides are congruent, both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, then you know it's automatically a parallelogram. If it's a parallelogram, then you automatically know both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. So far, parallelograms, we know opposite sides are going to be congruent, and opposite sides are going to be parallel. Parallel is part of our definition. Another theorem, another quadrilateral is a parallelogram if and only if opposite angles. Ooh, that was a algebra angle. Opposite angles are congruent. Opposite angles have to be congruent. So not consecutive, but the opposite ones. So somebody want to give me a pair of two congruent angles here? Evan.
Angle A and angle C.
Awesome. Angle A would be congruent to angle C. So what would I do on this picture to show that?
Put the arch on angle A and angle C.
Put a little arc on each of those, right? Okay. And somebody want to give me the other pair here? Josie. Angle B and angle D. Awesome. And what would I do to represent that on the picture? Two arcs, right? Because they're probably not congruent to those first ones. They could be, but they don't have to be. But in a parallelogram, the opposite angles have to be congruent. So once again, just kind of like with these sides being congruent, if you know these opposite angles are congruent in a quadrilateral, automatically a parallelogram. Even if the sides aren't marked parallel, if you know the opposite angles are congruent, they must be parallel, and the sides must be congruent. You know all of that from just one part of it. Jacob.
If all angles are congruent, doesn't that mean it has to be a square
No.
or a rectangle?
Yes. Yes.
Example 1.
Yes. Okay, I want you guys to work on solving example 1. So in example 1, what kind of shape do we have? Parallelogram. And we just learned a couple things about parallelograms, right? The measures. So let's put that into use here on example 1. So I want you guys to work on finding x and y here in example 1. When you're done, I want you to raise your hand. If you have questions, I want you to raise your hand. Dang.
No.
Dang.
No.
Tank as a tank. Hey, Jacob, quick question. Yeah. Why did you and Aubrey switch jackets? We didn't.
I didn't even notice. No. Yep. You're redheaded, you get a problem. I'm joking.
Ow! Paper cut on my neck. I'm on this. I forgot to be on. I don't know where you get your pen. No.
Let her suffer.
Nope.
Can you understand we're still some?
30.
Actually, I went 4 was not 6.
So there's the degree labels on the outside of the x. So the degree is already there.
Oh.
But if it just says, but if it says find the measure of the angle, you're going back in that. Here, x is the angle. Okay. Attention up here. Attention back up here, please. Thank you. Okay. So how would we find? Raise your hand if you want to tell me either x or y. Kaylee Clark.
I'll do X because it's easiest.
Cool beans.
So I know that 64 and 2X are congruent, so I set them equal to each other.
Okay. Opposite angles are going to be congruent by our second theorem here. So 64 is equal to 2x. Congruent just tells us to set them equal to each other. Okay.
And then I divide 2 from both sides. And I got 32.
Thank. Questions on X. Who's on with Y? Okay, Josie.
Why?
So you take y minus 6, and you set it equal to 10.
Okay, because opposite sides are congruent, right?
Yeah. And then you add 6. You get 18.
Dang.
Why?
Questions on that one? Let's go on to another theorem.
Wait.
Right below this. Now this one's an if then. This one's an if then though. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then consecutive angles are supplementary.
Ooh.
What's supplementary mean?
Equal 180.
They add up to 180. Guys, remember it's different than complementary. What does complementary add up to? 90 degrees. Remember my complementary angle is supposed to be back there, the super cheesy one? I love. Okay. So, yeah. Kaylee, Adrian, will you read those? Kaylee, read one, and then Adrian, read the other.
I like the way you always help me. I like that you're a good friend.
Complementary angles.
I
They're so
know,
nice.
I'm such a good friend.
Hi, such a good friend. I'm Mr. Costa.
So cute.
Isn't it? It's
I
wholesome.
just said I got it. It's like a whole
Okay.
card.
So,
I love it.
Somebody give me an example of two angles in here that would add up to 180, okay? Kaylee Broderson. Okay, so the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C would equal 180. Very good. These are consecutive angles. Could you pick any two consecutive angles?
Yeah.
Any two and it would work.
Ooh.
And if we think of this way, we could call, we don't know what this is, we could call it Z, just for grins and giggles. So what would angle C have a measure of? Okay, and if we call this O, let's call it W, what would B be? So we know that Z plus W plus W has to add up to what? 360, okay? Oop, watch. Okay, so that means, got a little close there, if we combine like terms, 2Z plus 2W is equal to 360, right? Okay, now could we factor something out on this left side? Thinking back to algebra 1 here. Could we factor something out? Is there a greatest common factor between 2Z and 2W? 2. So we could factor out a 2 and we're left with Z plus W in parentheses. And how can we get the variables by themselves? Now we can divide by 2 since there's multiplication. And so now you get Z plus W is equal to 180. And is that what this says right here? Yeah. So that's pretty neat, right? I think so.
Don't touch my shoe.
Whenever I see wholesome memes, I just comment wholesome. Or like Duke's coach, Coach K, after the UCF game when they barely won, he was like on the sideline next to talking to a reporter. I almost fell there. He was talking to a reporter there, and he was saying like, he's like, I want to give them all the credit in the world. Like we got lucky. They played a great game. They played well enough to win. You know, giving them like I feel for them. There's a lot of emotion over there, and I'm like, man, that's wholesome. So my friend shared it, and I was kind of like, wholesome.
Homework.
So, example 2. I have Duke winning it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Duke against Tennessee.
As long as I have Duke versus North Carolina.
It's North Carolina, dude.
But I had I low key had Villanova going to the Final Four, so RIP that. But they're my only Elite 8 team I'm missing right now.
LOL fool.
So I still have 7 of my Elite 8 teams. That's pretty good.
There's only one good bracket out there right now.
There's still one.
Yeah. Well, it's on CBS. ESPN is done so.
Gotcha.
They're just gonna give all the money to Zion.
Probably. He needs them with his feet now. Hey, so I want you to work on example 2. So find X and Y in example 2. Okay, when you're done, raise your hand. Or if you have questions, raise your hand.
Zion's gonna have his own shoes.
Wanna check?
I mean, don't we all have our own shoes?
Wanna check? Okay.
Already have my pointer.
You don't make any
That's what you get for being a good friend. How dare you? That'll teach you.
$5 you call it
Amen.
Yeah, you're not making any money.
Stuck out of it. He knows it's pretty good. Arby's slacking off now. He's like crying again.
You're right back to your
He's like crying with his whole concern.
Oh,
He gets the $5. I just said I'll give him $5. I said, oh, $5.
He said, oh,
We're talking about
$5 is trying to do the college budget.
You'll pay me $5 for the privilege of polishing these bad boys.
No one will give you $5. Hardly $4.
I turned this way. I haven't been to Vietnam yet.
So it's supposed to be like that.
Not
that high rate.
Probably lost sweat jobs.
Purple headband.
Yeah, you'll probably be polishing Jacob's shoes.
Jacob, come here. Let me polish those bad boys. They do.
Oh, they do.
They get polished by water.
Wet.
Well, it's fresh to the mirror. Fill on Bigfoot. You want me to just drive up there? What is that? You drive up together.
Alright, I'll just send, you need to write that. Because I'm gonna drive up there.
Oh, okay, so like, it's a really good
Because they don't provide us with rides.
Yeah, I know where we're both.
They don't write any price. Jacob, I'm cold. I'm jacket. I'll be there. I'll be there. Yeah?
I feel so
Yeah.
strong.
What do you do for that?
I don't know, I used to be
So,
like,
we set up the mountain
I know
bike
every
and
day it is.
we
Okay,
like,
good.
I would like to see that and all that.
Do you ever make faces at yourself, like at the front?
You're gonna like that.
Yeah?
The boys-
No, get off. I'll like to
You think-
I'll
you
do
think
it.
Jacob- you have to feel like that?
Eyebrows and my dad will
Mr. Constable?
Pro.
You're gonna be there.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm so glad I'm with you.
I'm helping the supervise.
Make fun of me so much.
I don't know.
I'm giving you two words. And then
Alright. Hey!
if I move wrong,
Raise your
That has to be a surprise.
raise your hand if you wanna
No.
raise your hand if you wanna help me find X. Adrian.
okay. So we know that opposite angles are congruent, and A and C are opposite. So C equals 120.
Dang.
Wow.
Good job, everybody.
Can I get help in finding Y? Okay. Which one? They're the same. Okay, Kaylee Clark.
So I did the consecutive angles, so
Yep.
I did 120 plus y equals 180.
That was great. Which Y did you use?
How is it? I used the
It doesn't matter.
and then I subtracted 120 from each side. Oh,
Dang. Question on this one. Go to the back.
She's dead.
Okay. We have another theorem. Woo! Yeah, theorem. Woo! Theorem. Yeah, theorem.
You see that Gronk
There.
is inspiring?
The what?
Gronk.
Teacher of fun.
I know he's retarded.
This is getting his missing.
Okay.
My brother.
A quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is a parallelogram. It's another if and only if and only if diagonals bisect each other. If diagonals bisect each other, what's bisect mean?
Where they cross each other and they're in the middle.
They intersect at each other's
Middle.
midpoints. Okay? They intersect at each other's midpoints. Does that mean the diagonals are congruent?
C.
No, not necessarily.
I don't know,
It just means they cut each other in half.
but they have.
So somebody give me an example of two segments here that would be congruent from our diagonals, okay? Noah.
A-E and C.
Okay? AE and CE, so two parts of that one diagonal. This is cut in half. E would be the midpoint of that. This is bisected by the other diagonal. Raise your hand if you want to give me the other one. Josie. Awesome. DE and BE. Could you have called it EB as well?
Yeah.
Sure, either way.
But it was like
D.
No, diagonal.
Yeah.
Deep.
Ow.
Okay.
Throw away that
So once
word.
again, this is an if and only. This is an if and only if. So if you know a quadrilateral has the diagonals bisect each other, then it has to be a parallelogram. Has to. So if you know that about a quadrilateral parallelogram, yep, you don't even need to know the sides at that point. Because even if all you knew, you don't have to write this down. But even if all you knew was there is this figure, and you just knew that, we have enough to say it's a parallelogram. Because of this theorem. Even though we don't know these are parallel, even though it's not marked, even though they're not marked congruent, even though we don't know anything about the angles, we automatically know it's a parallelogram because the diagonals are both bisected by each other.
Something tells me that's gonna be on a test.
Okay? And then from there, you can also know, oh, well, from now we can know these are parallel. And from there, you can also know that the sides are congruent. And from there, you can also know the opposite angles are congruent. Oh, fun. Okay. Anyway, you don't have to draw that down. That was just an extra example, okay? Kinda. Okay, so I want you to work on finding the values of x and y for example 13. 2y plus 9 goes with this little part here, and 3x plus 6 goes with this little part here. Ooh, big oof. I need to do 2 and 2 there. Oh. Once again, once you're done, please raise your hand. Or if you have questions, please raise your hand. Door, check. Go help check. Thanks. Go help check. Thanks. Oh.
Am I right?
Yes.
I'm actually right.
I actually.
I feel accomplished.
And then 2y plus 9 equals 7.
Wait. What is the problem?
That's okay, because if you would have told me it said Batman, I would have
It's a potato. What is avocado?
I knew it was
Mail it?
Oh.
Mail it to your grandpa. Yeah. Right, mail it to your grandpa.
I'm gonna mail Portillo's to myself.
How's that gonna help you?
Like giving me Portillo's later.
You already had them.
But it's in Illinois, so I don't.
You're gonna mail them to yourself.
Yes. Call ahead. Call 1-800-566-5341.
877 cash down.
Money's on the way with Cash from USA.
I love that.
Okay. Raise your hand if you want to help me with X. Kaylee Broderson.
The 12 and the 3x is not congruent, then you just set them equal to each other. And then you subtract 6. And then that equals 6. And then 3x divided by 3.
Dang, because the diagonal is bisected. Woo! Questions on X.
You really do.
Yeah. Woo! Woo!
Whoa.
Hot diggity dog.
Hey,
Sweet
guys,
mama!
Collective woo on 3, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Woo!
Awesome, okay. Help with Y. Help with Y here. Jacob.
So 2y plus 9 is equal to 27, so you let it equal to each other to solve for y.
Are you Mr.
Okay,
Titus?
Mr.
No.
Dude, I want to see Mr. Titus do a Ric Flair.
What?
Ric Flair.
There's no woo. Questions on Y. Okay, let's go through an overview real quick. Overview. Okay, so Parallel
Can we do an
overview. What?
Can we do an underview?
No.
Or
Oh, that's
side
not
view?
No. Or lateral view, you mean? That's it. No, side view.
I kinda like 360 view.
360 no scope?
You play video games?
Sometimes.
Me neither. Sometimes. I don't play.
Sometimes I am, though. Okay.
What do you play?
Mainly Madden. My roommate and I have a Madden. league.
What's your gamer tab?
I go on every day.
Xbox or
Lunch
PlayStation?
people In bed by 4 o'clock.
You can't play.
That'd be the
You can't play.
In the
That's
morning.
that's retirement.
PlayStation.
What?
You have an Xbox or PlayStation?
We play on my roommate's PS4.
Try
What?
Trevor needs to get an actual paid job so he can buy an Xbox One.
Yeah, and then he's got a PS4 later because all his friends have PS4.
Trevor has
Different.
friends.
DU.
Believe it or not, I know. Weird.
Wow.
So, parallelogram overview. Opposite what or what?
2 by 4.
Okay, there's a couple that can be true. So Noah said one first. Noah, what did you say?
Angles are congruent.
Okay, we can put that here. We can put them in on two different orders. Opposite angles are congruent. So let's go ahead and mark down our picture. Opposite angles are congruent. That's one thing we know about parallelograms. We can put a few in. A few of them are interchangeable in the order. We have another opposite blank or blank here. Raise your hands. Want to tell me another one? Evan.
Sides are
Okay, opposite sides are congruent. So we can mark that down here. Okay, so far we know we've said that the opposite angles are congruent and the opposite sides are congruent. Kaylee Rosen. Opposite sides are parallel. That goes back to our definition of what a parallelogram is. We can go in and we can mark that with our arrows. What is opposite sides are parallel?
What is a go?
Consecutive blank are blank.
See, it just sounds like that when he's saying it.
Angles are supplementary.
Consecutive angles are supplementary. What's that mean again for it to be supplementary? They'll add up to 180. Very good. Okay, can we really do anything to draw that on here? No, so we won't. Okay? And our last one, diagonals what each other? Bisect each other. Well, thank you very much. Okay, so we can draw that on here as well. Can I use one tick mark here though? I'd have to use 3, right? Because it's different from the 1 and 2 that we've had before. And do we know anything else about these parallelograms?
Not yet, so I literally take the time to get to know them. We'll find out.
Why the lines on there, okay?
We gotta take out.
Yeah. Stay tuned for next episode.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
Play the red truck game. Red light.
One other game I really like to watch is Wheel of Fortune going
All the prices are right.
Oh, so